Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to continue to optimize our game in order to prepare it for the storyboarding that we want to do, right? The actual, game creation uh, of the storyline. um, and today we're going to deal with something that we haven't touched upon in quite a while, actually, and that's this dialogue container, right? That pops up. Whoops. So just like our inventory container, we drag this out onto the screen and input this text object in the middle of it. But that's not really the optimal way to do it. You want to create it via your code so that you can call upon it whenever you need to and not have it there when you don't really need it. So best way to do that is basically follow in line with how we did the menu, the inventory menu. And what we can do here is let's go to our project manager, and let's go to our external events. Now we could create a dialogue external event, but you don't want to micromanage this so much that you end up with 100 external events that all handle different things. We already have an external event that's handling the creation of our inventory screen. Let's go ahead and use that to also create our dialogue container. So let's get rid of this. Let's delete it, right? The delete key, and let's delete it from the kingdom as well. Oh, it's not there. That's right, we didn't do anything with it yet. Let's delete our text dialog box as well, okay? And let's go to our inventory creation screen. All right, we got to do a little bit of math here to set this up, but it's not going to be difficult math. Let's do a new empty event. Let's create a grouping here, though. We'll call this dialog container creation. And let's put our empty event underneath that. There it is. Okay. And we do want this to trigger only once as well. So let's do advance, trigger once, hit OK. And we can actually just copy the code up here. And let's change this to dialog container. See, this is the beauty of, again, doing things sort of this way here. It seems tedious up front, but the more you do this, the easier it actually becomes, and certainly the easier it is to create the game that you want. We don't want the dialog container. Actually, I need to go into this first. Make sure you change the layer here to the correct one. We need the dialog layer. And we don't want it to be at 0, 0. We want it in the middle of the screen. Let's go back to our main event here. We want it in the middle of the screen, right? Which means we need to know what our screen is, right? My game is 800 by 600. And if you don't know, you could always go into the project manager and properties, and you'll see it right here, 800 by 600. Okay. And what we want to do is I'm going to drag this out again just to get measurements of it. So let's do some math here. We've got, for our X position, the screen is 800, right? And we want this to show up in the middle, so we divide it by 2. That equals 400. Now we need the width of this. So let's click on it, hit properties, and sometimes it doesn't show up. You have to drag this a little bit and then it populates. So the width here is 400, I believe, right? So divide that by 2, right? 400 divided by 2 equals 200. Now, you do have to remember for this particular room, right, in any room that we create these little walls here, you'd have to add 32, because that's what this is. 32 and 32 equals 64. Right? I mean, you could center it that way, or we could just, let's just see what it looks like at 200. Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough. The y value we can mess with here, and start using your x and y positioning in the properties menu to get more precision than just dragging it around. I mean, you can do that, but you get a lot more precision, excuse me, by doing it this way. That looks pretty good. We're centered in the room. We won't take these into consideration. There's no point. It'll still be centered, honestly, because they're both 32. So we want our coordinate positions to be 200x. So x equals, 200, y equals 340. Let's go into our global variables. And menu, dialog container. And here, now, aren't you happy we set this up? We set this up earlier. Position x equals 200. Position y equals 340. Up equals 0 means it's not up. Now let's hit apply. We'll delete this. And let's just do well, let's see. Inventory creation. Yep, create dialog at position. And let's use our variable. Global variable, and that would be dialog container position x. Whoops, get rid of the 0 there. And let's copy this. Let's get rid of our 0 here and change this to y. Whoops. Again, make sure you have the right layer over here. So now it's going to create our dialog container here as well. And let's see if that works. It should. Good. Alright, so it's creating our container. Now we just have to create our text box again as well. Text object. Okay, so let's do that. For that, we're going to need some measurements again, because I don't believe I have the exact measurements of that inner part. So let's do this. Looks to me about 32. We can actually use Bob here to check. Yeah, if we go 32, we'll be fine. Alright, so we can go 32, yeah, start at 32 by 32, and that'll work. Alright, good. So let's get rid of that again. Let's delete it. We don't need it. Let's go to inventory creation, and we'll create an object after this. Create an object, and we want to create the text dialog. And again, it's not 32, 32. It's 32 off of the dialog container. So let's go back up. Position, excuse me. X position here of the dialog container plus our 32 offset. And it's we'll do Control C and copy. Y plus 32, and again the layer is the dialog layer. Now we can hard code this 32 here because that container is not going to change, right? That was created in Paint 3D. It's not going to get bigger or smaller or whatever. So let's do that. Okay, the dialog container dialog is created now. I'm actually curious if it automatically puts like text in there. Let's see. Whoops, wrong button. No, it's blank. Okay. Let's fill it with some text. Let's see what it looks like. Let's go to our main events here. Let me collapse all this. We'll get to that. Let's use our D key again as a debugging tool, and let's change the text dialog. Go to text, object, modify the text dialog, right? Equals, let's do the old-fashioned, the old programming. Oh, I gotta put it in quotation marks. This is one of the first programs you ever learn is how to say hello world on the screen. So let's do that. All right, I'm gonna hit the D key now, so it should be in memory already. It's not. Now again, if something isn't showing up on the screen, right, usually why is that the case? It's usually because of some sort of Z order problem. So let's go in here, and we have, let me double check and make sure it's in the right, it is in the right layer. Okay, good. It creates it higher than the dialog container, which means technically it should be in the right Z order here. We're going to have to make these into, well, you don't have to, but it's a good idea to make these global anyway, because they're going to show up all over the place. So let's set text dialog as global. And our dialog container is already global. That shouldn't fix our problem though. Well, let's just do a test again. Let's do Z order here and see if that works. We're going to think on the fly here. The order of text dialog. Let's make it something outlandish here. Let's make it 5. 500. Okay, let's hit the D key. Yeah, so it is a problem of Z order. So what we can do is we can add the Z order here. Let's do add empty event. And let's do our Z order for the text dialog. Z order, okay. We always want that to be on top. Actually, the right way to do this would be to check the Z order of the inventory to make the dialog container a certain Z order, but let's just see what that does here and see if that fixes it. Yep, and now it even fixed. There it goes. Let's check out some of the properties for this though. You see how this is going over into our yellow here. We don't really want that. So we can change the sizing of this as well, and then let's try to do that really quick on this one. Create text dialog. What's the width of this again? Was it 400, right? Was the width of our text dialog? I mean our dialog container. So if each border is 32, math. Okay, if our dialog container is 400, and each border of the frame is 32, that's minus 64. That equals 336. That means our text dialog should be, let's do 330. 330 with the height of our dialog container is, let's double check here. Height is 200, yeah, because I just stretched this out. So if we minus 32 of this frame from 200, we end up with 200 minus 32 equals 168. So the height should be 168. So 330 and 168. Okay, so let's try to limit the size here of our text to 168. Let's add something here. Let's do text object. That's the size of the wrapping width. There we go. Object text dialog. The wrapping width. We need that. We need this number here, the width, 330, I believe. So let's try that. Let's see if that changes it here. What happens if we make this even smaller? Let's see what happens. Oh, I think you might have to turn wrapping on first. Yeah, let's see if that's the case. Yes. Okay, let's try this now. Let's move this up first. We want to put wrapping on, and then let's see if this shrinks it down automatically. Let's try that. Yep, that did it. All right, we can make this a little bit bigger though, so let's do that. We can set this to I think was, what was it, 330? I think it was. Yeah, let's try that. That did it. All right. One more thing optimized. We're moving forward.